To everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
What happens when a beloved fairy tale turns into a Hollywood disaster? Well, Rachel Zegler just found out, and it's not pretty. Fans were already doubtful when Disney announced a live-action Snow White, but things really started going downhill when Rachel Zegler, the star of the film, began rubbing audiences the wrong way. Her interviews sparked major backlash, especially when she called the original 1937 version weird and criticized the prince as a stalker. Many people felt she was completely dismissing the classic that generations grew up loving. Rachel Zegler's tone in multiple press interviews came across as arrogant. She claimed the movie wasn't about true love anymore, and that Snow White doesn't dream about true love, but instead wants to be a leader. For a lot of fans, this felt like she was rewriting a beloved fairy tale just to push a message, not to honor the story. The backlash was huge. People called her out for being ungrateful, and clips of her interviews went viral, sparking debates across TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter. The pressure got so intense that it led to a domino effect. Disney quietly started pulling back Snow White merchandise from stores. Fans noticed the dolls were no longer being restocked, and there was less promotional push compared to past live-action remakes. This raised even more questions. Was Disney already trying to distance itself? And then came the alleged meltdown. Behind the scenes, insiders claimed Rachel wasn't handling the backlash well. Reports suggested she was frustrated with the studio for how things were being managed, and the film was delayed an entire year.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird.
The trouble didn't start with Rachel Zegler's interviews. It started long before, when early leaks from the Snow White set made their way. Fans noticed something was off. The leaked photos showed a complete departure from the classic look and feel of the original 1937 film. Instead of the iconic dress and enchanted forest vibe, the new visuals felt flat, generic, and almost unrecognizable. The lack of real dwarfs also sparked a storm. Instead of casting actors with dwarfism, Disney replaced the 7 dwarfs with what it called magical creatures of varying heights and backgrounds. This move was criticized by both advocacy groups and fans alike for being a performative attempt at inclusion without respecting the original source or its legacy. And then came the story changes. Fans were expecting a fresh take, but they weren't prepared for a complete rewrite. Gone was the love story, gone was the prince, and gone was the magic that made Snow White a timeless fairy tale. Rachel Zegler herself said in interviews that the new Snow White doesn't dream about true love and is not going to be saved by the prince. Instead, the story was rewritten around modern values like female empowerment and leadership. While those themes aren't bad, longtime fans felt Disney was trying to lecture them instead of entertain. It came across as forced, and audiences pushed back hard. The common sentiment was, if you hate the original story so much, why remake it at all? One comment said, don't alienate half the country when you're selling a product for everyone. Disney has always been about family entertainment, not political statements, and to many people, this remake felt like it was choosing a side instead of welcoming everyone. Even some hardcore Disney fans admitted they were skipping this one, not out of hate, but out of pure disappointment. By the time the film finally premiered, the damage was already done. With a budget exceeding $250 million after costly reshoots and delays, Disney needed Snow White to be a global hit. Instead, what they got was empty theaters and one of the most underwhelming performances of any modern Disney remake. Critics weren't kind either. The film's IMDb rating dropped to a shocking 1 out of 10, with some reviewers calling it soulless and a complete betrayal of the original. Audience reactions weren't any better. Social media was flooded with photos of empty screening rooms. Some theaters had more employees than ticket holders.
Are you having trouble paying your bills, Rachel? Did Steven Spielberg not pay you for your role in West Side Story? Did Disney fail to give you a healthy paycheck for, cry me a river? She's just exactly everything that we can't stand.
Longtime Disney YouTubers who usually defend the company openly criticized the movie. Many said they felt disconnected from the characters and disappointed by how the studio handled the story. One influencer wrote, "It felt like watching a parody of Snow White written by people who didn't even like the original." Then there's the marketing, or more accurately, the lack of it. Unlike The Little Mermaid or Beauty and the Beast, there were no viral campaigns, no big merch pushes, no cast doing global press tours. It almost felt like Disney gave up before the movie even had a chance. And here's a little dose of humor to drive the point home. There were more dwarfs in the script than people in the theater, and those weren't even real dwarfs. And while Disney scrambled behind the scenes, Rachel Zegler was busy doing damage control. She framed the remake as empowering and praised the changes, saying that Snow White would be a leader, not a damsel. On paper, that might sound fine, but it clashed hard with what fans loved about the original. People weren't asking for a Boss Babe reboot. They wanted the charm, the romance, the timeless fairy tale they grew up with. But what really set people off wasn't the message, it was Rachel's tone. She laughed in interviews about how outdated the original movie was, calling the prince a stalker and saying the 1937 version was weird. Fans didn't hear empowerment, they heard someone mocking a classic, and that didn't go over well. Then came the dress comment. In one interview, Rachel joked that she was being paid to sit in a dress for 18 hours a day. What was meant as a lighthearted behind-the-scenes moment turned into a lightning rod. Viewers didn't appreciate the tone. One viral comment summed it up perfectly. "No one cares if she got paid for 17 or 18 hours on $1 million set. People can't even pay rent." To make things worse, Rachel Zegler seemed unfazed by the criticism. She doubled down in later interviews, repeating the same talking points instead of addressing fans' concerns. And it's not just her words, her whole attitude felt off to people. She wasn't defending the project with pride, she looked like she was distancing herself from it. Even casual viewers started asking, why is the lead actor acting like she doesn't even like the movie she's in? The disconnect grew, and by this point, Rachel had become a symbol of everything people thought was wrong with this remake.
I get stopped for photos every time I'm online for the Snow White ride, and I have to pretend like, oh God, well, crazy that we're in front of this.
Wait, how often are you in line for the Snow White ride?
I'm a narcissist.
Behind the scenes, Disney seemed to realize the storm wasn't passing. Instead of doubling down with confidence, they started pulling back. First came the merchandise. Normally, a film like Snow White would be a merchandising goldmine: dolls, costumes, books, themed accessories. But this time, a lot of planned merchandise either disappeared from shelves or was never released at all. Retailers reported scaled-back shipments, and the once prominent displays quietly vanished. The few products that did make it out, like dolls of Rachel, Snow White, barely moved. Fans joked about shelves staying full even after discounts. It was clear people weren't buying into the remake, literally. And then came the marketing rollback. The buzz that usually builds up before a big Disney release just faded. Social media campaigns got quieter, press coverage slowed, some international promo events were canceled or never confirmed. Even the official Disney channels stopped posting about the movie as frequently. The energy that typically surrounds a Disney princess film just wasn't there. This wasn't just about bad timing. It felt like a studio slowly backing away from its own product. And just when you thought it couldn't get worse, Rachel made it personal. By this point, things were already worse, but Rachel Zegler's behavior poured even more fuel on the fire. Instead of focusing on promoting the movie or addressing fan concerns, Rachel used her platform to post political rants that pushed away large portions of the audience. One of the most viral moments? Rachel telling followers, "Unfollow me if you don't vote blue." That post alone turned away many neutral fans who weren't even arguing politics. They just wanted a good movie. Instead, they felt like they were being shamed for their beliefs by someone promoting a family film, and it created a huge divide. What frustrated fans even more was how unnecessary it all felt. Rachel wasn't running for office, she was starring in Snow White. But her posts gave off the vibe that if you didn't align politically with her, you weren't welcome to support the movie either. In a time when moviegoers are already tired of politics invading everything, that was a major misstep. And then old drama started resurfacing. Comments Rachel had made during the West Side Story casting controversy came back into the spotlight. At the time, she had downplayed concerns over her casting as Maria, despite critics pointing out she didn't match the original character's heritage. Instead of addressing those critiques with empathy, Rachel often responded with a different tone, which fans say set the tone for how she'd later react to Snow White backlash. It all painted a picture of someone who wasn't really listening to her audience.
What can you say? When you get people talking, it's a good thing.
At the heart of it all, the Snow White remake didn't fail because of just one thing. It failed because almost everything from script to strategy went off the rails. Insiders say the film went through excessive reshoots, with Disney constantly adjusting scenes based on early test reactions and feedback. The results? A movie with no clear direction. Scenes felt patched together, and the tone shifted so often that audiences couldn't get emotionally invested. It was part fairy tale, part political messaging, and part awkward comedy. And then there was the bizarre ending, an awkward dance scene where everyone wore all white. Instead of ending with the classic happily ever after, the film closed on something that confused everyone watching. Even Disney's strategy of banking on nostalgia couldn't save it. Fans were expected to accept major rewrites just because the brand name said Snow White. But brand loyalty only goes so far when the product does. So, what do you guys think? Do you believe the backlash is fair against Disney and its new princess? Drop your thoughts in the comments, especially if you grew up loving the original Snow White. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. We've got plenty more drama coming your way, because sometimes the biggest villains aren't in the movie, they're behind it.